Be silent and life will unfold for you. The gentle power of stillness. There is a quiet kind of strength that lives in silence. Each time you speak, explain, defend, or argue, you offer a piece of your energy to the world. Most of us do it unconsciously, pouring our calm into places that do not know how to hold it. When you engage with someone who is not aligned with your peace, you are exchanging harmony for chaos, serenity for noise. Silence is not emptiness. It is a choice, a soft but powerful decision to no longer be pulled into battles that don't nurture your spirit, into conversations that do not honor your truth. It is the wisdom that whispers, you don't have to answer everything. Think about how often you have left a conversation feeling heavy and tired. It wasn't because you were wrong, but because you gave too much of your light in the effort to be understood. Your energy is sacred. It is not meant to be scattered before every voice that calls your name. Not everyone deserves to hear your thoughts. Not every moment requires your response. When you understand this, life begins to soften. Silence becomes your gentle boundary, your quiet form of protection. When someone tries to pull you into drama, you stay still. When others misunderstand or judge you, you remain calm, not because you are afraid, but because your peace has become more precious than their opinion. In that silence, you do not lose. You return to yourself. Silence protects your energy. There is a quiet grace in choosing not to react. Because every time you react, you lower your vibration to match the noise around you. But when you choose silence, you rise above it. In that sacred stillness, where you no longer need to justify or explain yourself, your energy begins to return to you. You stop leaking power into meaningless conflicts. You stop exhausting your heart trying to be understood by those who only look at the surface of your soul. In a world that craves labels, explanations, and total access, there is something profoundly powerful, almost magnetic, about the one who remains unspoken, unreadable. When you are silent, you quietly reclaim your power. You no longer give others the blueprint to your mind or the map to your emotions. You protect your inner world, the most sacred part of you, from being touched by the hands of misunderstanding. People will always try to analyze you. They want to know what you think, how you feel, what you fear, what drives you. The more you reveal, the more you hand them fragments of your truth that could one day be misunderstood or used against you. But silence keeps your mystery alive. And mystery is a kind of gentle power, calm, contained, yet deeply felt. When you are silent, others can only guess. They wonder, they imagine, they create stories, but none of them truly know. You become a quiet question that cannot be answered, and that unsettles them. Because people fear what they cannot control, and they cannot control what they cannot read. In your stillness, you take back the rhythm of your life. You no longer dance to the expectations of others. You become the observer, grounded, calm, and aware. While they are busy trying to decode your silence, you move softly, wisely, 10 steps ahead. You listen more than you speak. You act with purpose. You hold your peace like a shield. And in that quiet power, you are untouchable. Silence makes you unreadable. You hold the silence like armor, and it becomes impossible for them to figure out your next move. Your silence makes them uncomfortable, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you've denied them access to your inner world. When you don't give people your reactions, they start revealing themselves. They start talking more. They expose their intentions, their insecurities, their motives, because they want something from you that they can't seem to extract. And while they unravel, you remain composed. While they overshare, you stay grounded. Your silence becomes a strategy, a filter, a mirror, a test. It reveals who is authentic and who is only curious for the wrong reasons. In the constant noise of the world, where everyone has an opinion, where distractions are endless, where you're pulled in 1,000 directions, it's easy to lose connection with the one voice that truly matters, your own. Not the voice shaped by fear, not the one conditioned by past trauma, not the voice echoing society's expectations, but the voice that lives deep within you, your intuition. That voice is subtle. It's quiet. It doesn't scream for your attention. It whispers. And unless you create silence, intentional silence, you'll never hear it clearly. You'll always be guided by the noise outside instead of the wisdom inside. Intuition is your internal compass. It's the knowing that doesn't come from logic, but from alignment. It's that gut feeling you get when something is off. Even when it looks perfect on paper, It's that quiet nudge that tells you to walk away from something or to hold on a little longer, or to take a leap even when the path isn't fully visible. But the problem is most people don't trust it because they're too busy listening to everyone else. When you allow yourself to be silent, truly silent, you create space for reflection. Silence allows you to listen to your intuition. You start to notice things you used to overlook. You become more present. You hear your thoughts clearly. And in that stillness, your intuition becomes louder, stronger, more familiar. You begin to recognize its tone, its patterns. You start to differentiate between fear and instinct, between pressure and purpose, between ego and truth. In silence, you stop reacting and start understanding. You realize that some decisions don't need a second opinion. They need your internal clarity. You learn that your intuition has been trying to protect you all along, but you kept drowning it out with noise, with validation, with distraction. You see how many times you ignored it only to find out later it was right. Silence allows your mind to rest and your soul to speak. It's in the quiet moments when you step away from the chaos, the screens, the conversations that you finally meet yourself without the masks. You feel the pull toward what nourishes you and the resistance toward what drains you. You begin to understand that not every opportunity is meant for you, and not every connection deserves your energy. Not because someone told you, but because your intuition confirmed it within you. The answers you've been searching for, the clarity, the peace, the direction, they don't come from outside validation. They rise from within. But you'll never access that power if you don't give it the silence it needs to rise. Silence isn't just about withholding your words. It's about mastering yourself. It's about choosing restraint over reaction, calm over chaos, stillness over impulsiveness, and that kind of control that doesn't come easy. It comes from deep intentional inner work. It comes from discipline. Most people think discipline is about waking up early, following routines, or hitting goals. But real discipline, the kind that transforms you, starts inside. Silence builds inner discipline. It's the ability to regulate your emotions, to hold back when every part of you wants to lash out, to stay still when your pride is screaming to speak. That's not weakness. That's strength that's been forged in silence. You see, it's easy to speak when you're hurt. It's easy to react when you're triggered. It's easy to argue, to clap back, to try to prove your worth. But silence requires you to be in full control of yourself. It requires you to breathe through the fire and trust that not every battle deserves your energy. It teaches you to pause, to observe, to listen to what's being said and what's not being said. To ask yourself, does this need a response or is my peace more important? And when you consistently choose silence over unnecessary reaction, something starts to shift within you. You stop being controlled by your emotions. You stop falling into traps that were designed to distract or destroy you. You become more aware of your patterns, how you respond, why you feel triggered, what wounds still need healing. That self-awareness leads to self-mastery, and self-mastery, that's the foundation of discipline. In silence, you start to notice the power of patience. You start to understand that not everything needs to be rushed. Not every feeling needs to be acted on immediately. You develop the mental toughness to sit with discomfort without trying to escape it. You learn how to manage your anger, your fear, your insecurity, because you're not venting it. It's in those quiet moments when you want to speak but don't, when you want to defend yourself, but choose peace instead, when you want to be understood but choose solitude, that you train yourself to rise above. Silence attracts the right people. You realize that silence is not suppression. It's strategy. It's a higher level of emotional intelligence. It's the kind of strength that doesn't yell, it just endures quietly with intention. This inner discipline doesn't just affect how you speak, it affects how you live. It sharpens your focus. It strengthens your boundaries. It keeps you grounded when the world is spinning fast. And the more you practice silence, the more you trust yourself to handle life without needing to react to everything it throws your way. There's something magnetic about a person who doesn't feel the need to prove themselves. Someone who walks into a room and doesn't announce who they are, but their presence says everything. That kind of power doesn't come from loud words or flashy actions. It comes from quiet confidence. It comes from the strength of being whole within yourself. And silence, real silence, has a way of revealing that wholeness. When you stop talking just to be heard, when you stop oversharing, just to feel connected, you create space. Space for truth, for alignment, for the right people to recognize your value without you having to convince them. Because the ones who are meant for you, they don't need you to constantly explain who you are. They just see it. They feel it. They sense it in your energy, in your stillness. in the way you carry yourself without needing validation. Silence becomes a filter. It separates the surface-level connections from the deep ones. The ones who get uncomfortable with your silence, those are often the ones who are only interested in your noise. They wanted access, not understanding. They were drawn to what you could give, not who you truly are. But the ones who stay, the ones who lean into your silence with curiosity, respect, and presence, those are the ones who see you beyond your words. Silence creates space for growth. When you're silent, you give people the opportunity to reveal themselves. You see who respects your boundaries and who tries to cross them. You see who listens without needing constant updates, who values your presence even when you're not performing, who feels connected to your spirit, not your stories. And most of all, you begin to attract people who are aligned with your peace. Because let's be honest, when you're always explaining, always entertaining, always available, you end up inviting energy that doesn't match your growth. You attract noise, you attract distraction. But when you move in silence, when you don't chase, when you let your energy speak for you, you draw in something much deeper, something authentic. You start attracting people who are not intimidated by your stillness, but inspired by it. People who don't take your silence personally because they recognize it as a reflection of your strength. You become a mirror. You reflect back to others what they're ready to face. The ones who are uncomfortable with your silence will try to shake it, disrupt it, or misunderstand it. But the ones who are meant for your journey will understand that silence is not absence, it's depth. They will meet you in that quiet space and build with you from there. Growth doesn't happen in chaos. It doesn't bloom in noise, in constant conversation, or in the never-ending need to be seen, heard, and validated. Real, lasting, soul-deep growth happens in stillness. It happens in silence. Because silence is where you finally hear the truth that gets drowned out by the demands of the world. When you choose silence, you're not withdrawing from life. You're stepping into yourself. You're clearing the clutter, turning down the volume of opinions, comparisons, and expectations, and making room for reflection. Because reflection is the soil where growth takes root. Silence is the language of power. You start to ask different questions. Not what do they think of me, but what do I think of me? Not how do I fit in, but who am I becoming? Growth is not always about doing more. It's about becoming more. Our aware and silence is the space where awareness is born. It reveals what's working and what's not. It exposes the patterns you've been repeating, the wounds you've been ignoring, the dreams you've been putting off. And in that raw honesty, you find the courage to shift, to release, to change. In silence, you also get to reconnect with your purpose. Not the one someone else told you to chase, but the one that's been buried underneath distractions and doubts. You begin to understand that the best version of you is not out there somewhere. It's already inside you waiting to be uncovered. But it can't rise until you give it room, until you quiet the noise, until you sit with yourself and listen. You start realizing that you don't need to announce every move, prove every step, or rush every season. Growth requires patience. It requires solitude. It requires faith that even when it feels like nothing is happening, something is. Roots grow in silence, underground, unseen, and your transformation is no different. Just because the world can't see it yet doesn't mean it's not real. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will come when no one is watching, no one is clapping, and no one is validating you. Silence also sharpens your focus. It teaches you what deserves your time and what simply drains your spirit. You become more intentional with your energy, more selective with your presence. You stop trying to be everything for everyone and start becoming everything you were meant to be for yourself. You create boundaries. You protect your mind. You nourish your soul. And slowly, you rise, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply and authentically. Power isn't always loud. Conclusion: let your silence speak. True strength doesn't shout. It doesn't need to fill a room or demand to be seen. Real power moves quietly, steady, grounded, and sure of itself. It doesn't seek attention. It naturally commands it. It doesn't prove. It simply is. Those who truly hold power never feel the need to explain it. They let their silence carry it. Because silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is self-control wrapped in calm. When you choose silence, especially when you could easily react, argue, or defend, you are telling the world one profound truth. I know who I am. And there is nothing more powerful than that. A person who is rooted in self-awareness no longer needs to prove their worth, defend their name, or mirror the chaos around them. Every time you react to everything, You scatter your energy, giving others access to your emotions, your peace, your center. But when you remain silent, you stay anchored. You stay in control. You protect your sacred energy. And in that stillness, others begin to feel your presence. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you're capable of. That quiet mystery, that calm certainty, is power. Silence allows you to observe without being pulled into the noise. You start to see people not for what they say, but for what they do when they think no one notices. You realize not every insult deserves a reaction. Not every battle needs your sword. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply none at all. When you live in that energy, of silence, of restraint, of presence, you rise above the noise naturally. You no longer need to shout your boundaries. People feel them. You no longer need to display your strength. People sense it. They begin to respect your quiet, not as weakness, but as wisdom. Silence gives you space to breathe, to think, to act from intention rather than impulse. It becomes both your shield and your guide. Through silence, you communicate more deeply than words ever could. You teach others how to treat you without a single explanation. And then you understand. The most powerful person in the room is often the one who speaks the least, but sees the most. So let them wonder about your quiet. Let them question your stillness. Let them guess who you are becoming. Because your silence is not your fragility. It is your edge, your protection, your peace. When you stop speaking so much, you begin to hear what truly matters. You start to see others clearly, and most beautifully, you begin to see yourself. In the silence, you heal. In the silence, you grow. In the silence, you rise. You no longer chase what is meant for you. You no longer beg for clarity or force understanding. You rest. You breathe. You trust. Stay still. Stay grounded. Let your silence work quietly on your behalf. Let your energy speak. Let your presence lead. Because everything you've been searching for, clarity, strength, wisdom, peace, and purpose, has always been waiting for you. On the other side of silence, if these words have touched something deep within you, take a quiet moment to let them settle in your heart. If you found peace or reflection in this story, please let us know. Leave a comment to share your thoughts, or simply write what this message meant to you today. Your words may be the gentle reminder someone else needs to hear. And if you wish to keep walking this path of calm, self-discovery, and quiet strength together, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Everyday Whisper Stories. Here, we whisper stories that soothe the heart, calm the mind, and help you find stillness. One gentle story at a time.